Hi, good morning. Let's set ourselves up for success today. Let's go take something out of the freezer for dinner. So, the plan for today is taking out some chicken tenders because I think tonight I will bread and fry and make some homemade chicken tenders and then make macaroni and cheese with the rest of the leftovers, odds and ends cheese I have in the refrigerator. And I have a random thing of half noodles, so I'll make a little whip up a little thing of macaroni and cheese, and I think I'll make some homemade french fries. That's the plan for today. Hopefully it happens. So I'm gonna go get dressed and I'll see you back here when it's time to get ready to cook. Okay, ready to start dinner? These chicken tenders are gonna be kind of a cheat. I'm using pre-seasoned flour. Usually I make my own, but this time I'm kind of in a hurry, or not even really in a hurry. I just want easy. I guess you could call it semi-homemade. So we're gonna do a little shortcut, easier, less mess way to make chicken tenders. I'm gonna put them all in a freezer bag, put my eggs, put a little heavy whipping cream, put my chicken tenders, put my seasonings, and do it all in a freezer bag rather than the traditional dredge, flour, egg, flour. I feel like those are great and I do that quite often, but today I just want to hurry and get it done. I feel like it's still a great way to get a homemade meal. Feel like you're doing homemade, but it's just a little shortcut. It's just faster. Sometimes you don't have a whole lot of time. You want to sit and do everything the old traditional way. Well, half the time I just make it this way. Still is good and everybody enjoys it. I'm just thinking if I should use a 1 gallon. Yeah, 1 gallon it is. I have 2 gallons. Well, I have 2 gallons. I have 1 gallon. I have a half-gallon quarts sandwich and snack. Oh, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to show you something. I don't always do this, but I'm going to do it this time so then I don't have to do it again if I don't want to because I've already showed you. We are going to take this chicken tender, move so you can see. Now you know on chicken tenders, that little white vein or tendon rather, we are going to, kind of like how you rip the membrane off the back of the ribs, we're going to grab a hold of that membrane, put it between our fork tongs, and pull it right out. Then you have your chicken tender, and you don't have to worry about that tendon that you have to always spit out or try to chew through. Me, I like to cut off the ick of my chicken because I don't know what piece of chicken I'm going to get. And I want a good piece of chicken. So if I don't want to eat it, I don't make anybody else eat it. Then I'll just throw it in my bag, move on to the next. Like I said, I don't always do this, but I never regret when I do. Okay, so again, for those of you in the back, let's do it one more time. The tendon, see that fatty tendon? You can do it bare fingered. I just find it's easier to use a paper towel because it doesn't slip as easy. Hold on to the tendon, take your fork and position that tendon right between the tongs or the prongs of your fork and pull. Boom. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I stopped pulling those tendons about halfway through. I'm going to put a little heavy whipping cream in my freezer bag. You don't have to use heavy whipping cream. You can use milk. You can use water. You don't even have to use anything. You can just use egg. I'm going to crack my 4 eggs into the bag. And these are store-bought chicken eggs, so the chances of them being bad or having chicken in them pretty low, so I don't have to worry about cracking them into another bowl before I put them in here. If you use chicken fresh eggs, like farm fresh eggs, you may want to do that. Or if you tend to keep your eggs for a while, you don't go through them, as fast as we do, then you may want to do that also, just to ensure that you don't get a rotten egg in the bunch. Remember, you want to season every layer, so I'm going to put a little bit of seasoning in with my egg wash, buttery garlic and herb, a little pepper, a little salt, a little chicken bouillon. I think I'm going to go in with a 1/4 teaspoon because my flour is already seasoned and it's actually seasoned really well. This is the only kind I buy. If I don't use this, I make my own. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of chicken bouillon, a 1/4 teaspoon of buttery garlic and herb. You can just use garlic powder if you want, garlic powder, onion powder, any of the powders you like. 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon-ish of pepper. And actually, I'm going to go get the paprika and use that as well. Paprika, 1/4 teaspoon-ish. And each time I do it, it's different. Like turmeric is really good in here too. I'll do onion powder. I'll do my onion butter seasoning. I'll do Johnny's. It just kind of depends on the flavor profile I'm trying to go for. So you want to shake it all up, mix it, break up that yolk. Sometimes your seasoning will clump on the side, so you'll just take your chicken and rub it, and then it goes away. It mixes all in that egg and cream mixture. Get our seasoned flour opened, or if you make your seasoned flour, get it ready. Okay, this next part may be controversial, so buckle up. Stay with me though. Trust the process, hopefully. I pour about half the bag in, just right in there with the tenders and the egg mixture. Shut it, zhuzh it around quickly. Actually, I did about 1/4 of the mixture. I'll do about another 1/4 of the mixture, the flour rather. Same thing. Oh, I guess I should have been showing you. But you'll see they're starting to get dry. So it kind of makes it a wet batter. But then as you're putting the dry in, keep continuing to dry, it will give it a dry batter. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Oops. I think honestly I should have used a bigger bag. Well, this is real life, people. Didn't work. I should have used a bigger bag. These are more tenders than I usually use. I just used that whole bag. So, for the most part, it was a success. But I'm just gonna turn it out and fold in the flour so I can make sure they're all coated, because I'm going to let them sit for a little bit before I start to fry them. That way the breading has time to stick to the chicken. Actually, it's going to work out really well too, because all these little wet pieces are going to go into the dry, and it will make them kind of crunchy. So they're not just a flat, they'll be nice and like a restaurant style. See, most of them did pretty well. This is exactly what I was looking for. See how they're kind of coated, little crispy bits. It's a wet batter and then a dry batter dusting. So they work out perfect. But like I said, I had too many tenders. I should have went with my first instinct, and I should have used a bigger bag, because the middle didn't quite zhuzh very well. Didn't have enough room. Okay. So we'll just flip them around, give them a little tossy toss. Since these chicken tenders were cold straight out of the refrigerator when I started this process, I'm going to let them sit in this flour while I start doing the macaroni and cheese. So it gives it time to come to room temperature, because it helps when you're frying it to fry the room temperature rather than cold, because then you keep dropping the temperature of the oil, and that's when they get soggy and the breading falls off, and it's a whole mess. So you want room temperature, and preferably let your tenders rest so that breading can dry and it really sticks, adheres to the chicken. And then you'll want hot oil. I mean, not like super hot where it's smoking, you burn in the oil and it will taste scorched, but 350, 375. And then as you drop them in, it's hot oil, so it will, it's like sear it, and it will adhere the breading to the chicken without just sitting in the oil and absorbing the oil and getting all soft. I know you're probably thinking, excuse me, how is that a shortcut? This does not look quick. If you do it the right way, use a big enough bag or a container or a bowl, it does. But, you know, it's real life. Sometimes things just don't go how you planned it. Just roll with it, adapt, move on, fix it, and keep on rolling. If I never told you, you would have never known. Trust me, the people who are eating it will have no clue. But after I'm done cooking them, you'll be able to see the difference between, oh, you know what I should have did is just did one, like dusted, like a regular, and you can see the difference between the tenders. But that's fine. After I'm done cooking them, you'll see that they look like restaurant style. They have these little crispy bits, the little chunkies, so they'll fry on there and have a little texture to it. So these are all coated. What I'm going to do is kind of lay them in a single layer with some flour sprinkled in between if I have to stack any, because they'll absorb the flour. And then if you don't, you'll end up with, like, see how that looks so gummy? You'll end up with chicken tenders that look like that. And if that does happen, what you can do is just get a little bit of flour and give it a little season yourself, and then dust them, like flip them over, give it a little dredge in the flour so the flour can coat the stickiness, and then it'll be ready to fry. Okay, so I'm satisfied with the coverage of the chicken. Now we'll let it sit while we go prep to do the macaroni and cheese. And then before we fry them, we'll come back and look at them and see if we need to give them a little dusting of extra flour or if they're good to go. Okay, so we're going to make homemade macaroni and cheese with using what we have. For some reason, I have a random bag of, I believe it's like the box macaroni and cheese noodles. I think it's probably about the equivalent of 2 boxes. Why they're in my pantry, I have no idea, but we'll use them. The butter, it will probably be a 6 cheese macaroni and cheese. We're going to use the remnants of what we have. We have some mozzarella, 1 piece of American sliced cheese, sliced mild cheddar, sliced sharp cheddar, sliced provolone, and shredded Parmesan. And I don't have any milk, so we're going to make it with half and half. I have a splash left of this one, and I have a full one of this one. So it'll be rich and decadent, mismatched and thrown together. Okay, we're going to get the water on to boil for the noodles, and I'm going to get the pan out, and we're going to start making our roux and making our cheese sauce. So once the noodles are done, we can throw it all together and put it in a little casserole dish. So then when dinner comes, because it's still a little bit early, but when it's time for dinner, we'll pop it in the oven, and then I'll start frying up the chicken tenders. And I think what I may do also is I have some Ritz crackers, and I'm going to crush up the Ritz and mix them with a little melted butter, and I'll do half because some of my family doesn't like the Ritz cracker crumble crust on top, and then some prefer only cheese. So we'll just do a little half and half version. So let's start making our cheese sauce. Turn your pan on to about medium heat. The general rule is you do a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour. I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of butter, but only do 4 tablespoons of flour. I like mine to be not so dry. If I was making a full box, a full pound of noodles for a regular size macaroni and cheese, I would use all 8 tablespoons, and I would use 6 tablespoons of flour, or like a quarter cup. I'm just using all-purpose flour because that's what I have, but honestly I actually prefer self-rising. 4 tablespoons. Now you can see how, hopefully you can see how it's still a little loose. It's not, if I was only going to do 4 tablespoons of butter with the 4 tablespoons of flour, it would be much more dry, crumbly even, which is, I mean, fine. You can just use your whisk and break it up, but I prefer mine to be more kind of like a paste, because then I feel like the flour cooks out easier. And then when I'm adding my liquid, it makes a nice smooth sauce. And this right here is actually the base of gravy. I'm using the half and half, which with the half and half, this roux, salt and pepper, you have a country gravy. And this beginning right here, you add beef stock, you have beef gravy. You add chicken stock, you have chicken gravy. But if you add chicken stock, half and half, or milk, you have like a cream of chicken soup, which you can add in to your crock pot meals or when you need it. Because me personally, I don't like so much the taste of a canned cream of chicken soup. I feel like it overpowers whatever it is I'm making, like chicken and noodles or chicken and dumplings or whatever. I feel like the cream of chicken soup is just too overpowering. So I prefer to make my own. And you'll want to cook this for about 3 minutes or so. You can see the color. Hopefully you can see the color. You can see the color of the flour. See how the inside is lighter than the outside? The longer you cook it, the paler it will get. Pale? It will get less color? Paler? Is paler even a word? It will lighten in color. How about that? But if you let it cook out too long, it will start to get darkened because you're browning the butter and you're basically toasting the flour. So you get a different flavor profile. I think if you were trying to make a beef gravy, you would want to boil it or cook it down a little bit longer to get a little bit deeper, richer color. But since we're just making a cheese sauce, we just want it till it's light pale color. And then as you're cooking it, you'll smell more of the nutty butter smell and less of the flour smell. You'll want to stir often because it tends to cook more in the middle. On the outsides, don't simmer as much. So by constantly giving it a little swirl, you ensure that you evenly cook everything. Our salted water is coming to a boil, so we're going to dump in these noodles. Don't forget to give them a stir as soon as you dump them in so they don't stick together. Can you see the colored at the bottom? It's a little darker, but I cooked it a little bit past the point of being just pale. Now it's starting to toast. So we're going to add in our 4 cups of half and half for milk or broth, whatever you're using. And I'm going to do it a little at a time, probably about half, like 2 cups at a time, so I can make sure I get it all whisked around so it ensures we don't get a lumpy gravy or a lumpy sauce. Also, make sure you salt your pasta water. Want it salty like the ocean. This is your only chance to season your pasta. Once you start feeling your sauce thicken up, go ahead and add the other 2 cups. Again, whisking thoroughly to ensure you get no lumps. No lumps or clumps. You'll want to periodically give your noodles a stir. Make sure they don't stick together either. I went ahead and drained my pasta. I reserved about a cup of the pasta liquid in case our sauce gets too thick and we need to thin it out a little bit. We can just use the pasta water. Now my sauce is starting to tighten up, so at this point we're going to go ahead and add a little seasoning to it. We'll do a 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper-ish. This is completely optional, but I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/4 teaspoon of chicken bouillon, a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon-ish of garlic powder. I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple shakes of Italian seasoning too. Now my sauce is starting to come to a slight boil, so I'm going to cook it like this for a little bit to see how thick my sauce is going to get, because I still have this cheese to add and I don't want it too thick because it will just get gummy. You'll want it a little thinner than you actually want it because you got to add that cheese. And then also I'm going to throw mine in the oven. And my family likes a creamy baked macaroni and cheese, so I got to make the sauce a little thinner because the pasta will absorb some of the moisture in the sauce. I'm going to add a little bit more cream. So I think in total I ended up using about 5 cups of half and half. And then once I add my cheese, if I still find it a little too thick, I'm going to add that reserved pasta water. We'll break up and slap in that piece of good old American cheese. Break up the sharp cheddar. Throw in the mild cheddar. Oh, I guess I have 3 pieces of provolone. Break that up and throw it in. You don't even have to break it up if you don't want to. I just find it a little bit easier to melt and incorporate being broke up. If you don't have sliced cheese, which usually I don't use sliced cheese, you have brick cheese or a bag of shredded cheese, you can use about 1/4 of a cup of each cheese. I'm going to go in with about a handful, just about a 1/4 cup of the Parmesan. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in the rest of the mozzarella I have, which is about 2 handfuls. So maybe a cup and a half, 2 cups. Then continuously stir until melted and well incorporated. It may seem a little thick and goopy. That's because your cheese hasn't fully melted and incorporated yet. So hold off adding any more liquid until you get your cheese stirred and melted for a couple minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add in some of that reserved pasta water. You can also add in water, milk, broth. You can add in a different liquid to thin it out if you'd like. I just find using the pasta water adds another level, another depth of flavor rather than adding more milk or cream, and then it kind of dilutes the flavor and you have to end up adding a little bit more seasoning. And once your cheese is melted and incorporated and it's no longer stringy, you'll want to taste it. Always keep tasting for flavor. I'm going to add a couple shakes of this buttery garlic and herb. Just don't feel like it really has much of a flavor. I'd rather give it kind of a deeper savory flavor. Because your pasta doesn't have a whole lot of flavor, it was just cooked in that salt water, but it's slightly bland. So you'll want your cheese sauce to taste good. Some people can put mustard in it, honey mustard or Dijon mustard or mustard, mustard powder, but I don't do that. You can also put in hot sauce, like Tabasco, a couple shakes. It doesn't really make it hot, like it doesn't add much. It doesn't add heat really. It just adds, again, another layer of flavor. And I would do that, but I don't have any. Perfect. Okay, what we're going to do now, slide this over. We're going to cut off our heat. We're going to add back our pasta. Actually going to add a little bit of my cheese sauce in first so I don't break up my noodles too much because they're these little Kraft cheese noodles. They're not as thick and hearty as a regular box of pasta noodles. You'll want to just slowly add your cheese, a little by little. If you just pour it all in there, you'll have a swampy mess. Now you could totally just eat this as is. Instead of a box macaroni and cheese, this is perfect. And even if they're not these noodles, any noodles, at this point, you can just dish it up and use it as a stovetop macaroni and cheese. But because I'm going to put it in the oven, I'm going to add some more cheese sauce so it's a little thinner, because that way as it bakes, it will tighten up. You don't want to add too much cheese sauce so it's swimming in cheese sauce, but you'll want it more of a creamy consistency, like a super creamy consistency. That way, as it bakes, it will bake out some of that liquid and the noodles will absorb some of the liquid and it will become more firm. At this point, you'll take your casserole dish, whether it's glass or even a disposable aluminum pan, give it a spray of non-stick cooking spray, and then we're going to pour our macaroni and cheese into it. So my macaroni and cheese isn't super yellow because we used majority white cheese, so it's kind of pale, but it still tastes good. You can just use all cheddar, sharp cheddar, medium cheddar, American, all yellow cheese. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit, make it even. I'm going to take the remaining 2 tablespoons of butter that we have left over from making the cheese sauce. I'm going to melt it in the microwave, and then I'm going to add about half a pack of Ritz crackers. I melted it for about 15 seconds. Normally I would do a full pack, but I'm only going to do about half of the macaroni and cheese with the cracker crumble crust, so I don't need as many. Mix them all up so all the Ritz crackers are moistened with the melted butter. If you find your cracker chunks are a little too big, just break them up with the back of your spoon as you're mixing them, because you'll want them semi-fine, but not super fine to where it's like breadcrumbs. But you'll want just like little tiny, kind of like a crumble topping, enough to keep its texture, not too much that you feel like you've got a mouthful of crackers. And I'm going to sprinkle that over half. Again, in the spirit of using what you have. I don't have any shredded cheese, so I'm just going to use the, well, I guess I could do some provolone, but I'm just going to use the Parmesan cheese and sprinkle that on the other half. And just to make it look pretty, I'm going to sprinkle the top with parsley flakes. And boom, there you have it. Homemade macaroni and cheese with just using the remnants of what you have. We'll throw this in the oven for about 30 to 45 minutes until it's bubbly and starts to brown on top. Time to make dinner. We're going to start the oven, preheat the oven to 350 so we can throw the macaroni and cheese in, and we are going to put oil in the cast iron to get it hot and ready to fry the tenders. I was going to do homemade French fries, but I don't feel like it. Okay. I didn't shut the drawer. Let me go do that right now. I'm actually going to start the oven at 375 because I feel like my oven doesn't run as hot as it should. We're also going to pour in some oil into our pan. Oil?
Can I help you?
Yes. You got it. Yep, just like that. Okay, that's good.
Don't touch it.
No, don't touch it. It's not hot right now, but it could be. I'm going to use my meat thermometer to check the oil because I want to make sure it's hot enough before I start putting in my tenders. I'm going to heat it up to about 350, 375.
Okay.
Oops, careful. Knock macaroni and cheese on the floor.
You have mac and cheese? Ooh, a white mac and cheese.
You'll want to get your cookie sheet and your wrap ready. So after you take your tenders out of the oil, you can put them on a rack to drain. You can put them on paper towel. You can put them on a brown paper bag. But you just don't want it to sit in the oil because then it will just be all soggy. Let's check our oil. You're using a meat thermometer. You don't want to go all the way down and touch the bottom of the pan because, of course, it will be hotter down at the bottom of the pan because it's closer to the flame. But you want to get about to the middle of the oil. I have the flame turned up to almost high, but once the oil comes to temp, I'm going to cut the heat down a little bit. Okay, our oil is hot. I have my chicken tenders laid out on a cookie sheet, so it's easier to grab. You want to make sure you don't overcrowd your pan. I'm going to put in a few of these smaller pieces because I know a few guys who would like to have some samples. Our oven's hot, so we're going to put in our macaroni and cheese. I turned my heat down to in between medium and medium high. So I guess it's medium. Take round one out of the oil. Round two. Round two out of the fryer. Round three in the fryer. And I'm getting about 4 tenders per batch. That way they're not overcrowded and the oil stays at a pretty regulated temperature. Last batch going in. 4 batches of 4 basically. Restaurant quality tenders at home. I was talking about the little Crispies. Macaroni and cheese is done. Okay, dinner's done. Thanks for making dinner with me. Love ya. Let's try macaroni and cheese. For a thrown together mishmash, use what you got. It's a contender. It's a contender for holiday quality. Put it like that and I'll say it.
Hi, Mama.
Is it good?
Yeah, a good Mama. They're happy.
You happy?
Yeah. Here you go.
Thank you, baby.
It's good. Mac and cheese, 10 out of 10. I've yet to try the chicken strip, but I doubt it's not going to be great because my mom made it. But no, it's really, really good.